We've all been there, caught up in the excitement of meeting someone new, ignoring that little voice in the back of our heads telling us something feels off. But here's the truth, those gut feelings, they're not random, they're warnings. And if you keep brushing them aside, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak, frustration, or worse. Today, we're talking about red flags, the ones you cannot afford to ignore, because the signs are always there. The question is, are you paying attention? Let's dive in. When someone's words don't align with their actions, it's not just a minor character flaw, it's a red flag waving right in front of you. At first, it might seem like a small inconsistency. Maybe he says he'll call, but doesn't. Maybe he promises to show up on time, but is always running late. You brush it off, telling yourself, it's just one time. Or he's probably busy. But as time goes on, you start noticing a pattern. He makes commitments, reassures you with words, but his actions repeatedly tell a different story. This inconsistency creates confusion. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I misheard, maybe I'm overreacting, and that's exactly how manipulation starts. People who lack integrity or emotional maturity often rely on words to keep you hooked while doing whatever they want in the background. It's a way to maintain control. They know that as long as they say the right things, they can get away with not following through. In healthy relationships, words and actions match. If someone says they care about you, they show it. They don't just say, I'll be there for you. They actually show up when you need them. They don't just talk about respect, they treat you with it consistently. But when you're dealing with someone who is unreliable, you start living in a space where you're constantly second-guessing everything. One moment they say you're important to them, and the next, they disappear for days without explanation. One day, they make big promises about the future, and the next, they act like none of it ever happened. This kind of inconsistency messes with your sense of security. You can't build trust with someone who constantly leaves you questioning their intentions. You shouldn't have to decode someone's behavior like it's a puzzle. A real connection is straightforward. What they say is backed up by what they do. If you're always left trying to figure out if he actually means what he says, that's a sign something isn't right. And let's talk about what happens when you call it out. A mature person will acknowledge their mistakes and make an effort to change, but someone who thrives on inconsistency will flip the script. Instead of taking responsibility, they'll make you feel like you're the problem. They'll say things like, you're being too sensitive or you're overthinking it. Suddenly, instead of addressing the real issue, their unreliable behavior, you're put on the defensive, explaining why you feel the way you do. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion. You become drained from constantly trying to figure out where you stand. You start lowering your expectations, accepting less than what you deserve. And that's the dangerous part, because once you start normalizing inconsistency, it becomes easier to ignore other red flags. You let the small broken promises slide, you'll eventually let the bigger ones go too. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing words over actions. People will tell you exactly what you want to hear, but their actions will always reveal the truth. If he says he respects you but constantly dismisses your feelings, he doesn't respect you. If he claims he values your time but repeatedly cancels plans at the last minute, he doesn't value your time. If he insists he wants something serious but refuses to show up consistently, he's not serious. It's easy to get caught up in potential. You might think, he's just going through something right now, or maybe he doesn't realize he's doing this. But the reality is, if someone truly cares, they'll make an effort. They'll take accountability. They won't just keep feeding you excuses while doing the same thing over and over again. You deserve reliability. You deserve someone whose words match their actions, someone who follows through, someone who doesn't leave you questioning where you stand. Because here's the truth. When a man is truly interested and emotionally available, there's no confusion. There's no second guessing. You won't have to wonder if he means what he says, because he'll prove it to you every single time. Lack of accountability is one of the biggest red flags in any relationship, and it often reveals itself in subtle ways at first. At its core, accountability means taking responsibility for one's actions, choices, and mistakes. It means acknowledging when you've done something wrong, making an effort to correct it, and ensuring that it doesn't happen again. But when a man refuses to take accountability, he shifts blame, makes excuses, and avoids responsibility at all costs. Over time, this behavior becomes exhausting to deal with and can create an unhealthy, toxic dynamic in the relationship. At first, his refusal to take responsibility might seem minor. Maybe he forgets to text back, and instead of apologizing, he says, "I've been really busy," as if being busy erases the fact that he didn't follow through on his word. Maybe he cancels plans last minute but turns it around by saying, "You know how unpredictable my schedule is?" At this stage, it's easy to dismiss his behavior as unintentional. You might even find yourself justifying it, thinking he's got a lot on his plate. But if this pattern continues, it becomes clear that it's not about busyness. It's about a fundamental refusal to take responsibility for his actions. As time goes on, the excuses become more frequent and more manipulative. Whenever something goes wrong, it's never his fault. If he hurts your feelings, instead of acknowledging it and apologizing, he tells you that you're overreacting. If you try to talk about an issue, he finds a way to turn the blame onto you, making it seem like you're the one causing the problem. It becomes a never-ending cycle where no matter what happens, he never takes ownership of his behavior. This kind of dynamic is emotionally draining. You start questioning yourself, wondering if maybe you really are being too sensitive or if maybe you are expecting too much. That's exactly how a lack of accountability can turn into a form of emotional manipulation. When someone consistently refuses to take responsibility, they shift the weight of the relationship onto your shoulders. You end up carrying all the emotional labor, constantly explaining, justifying, and trying to make things work, while they take zero effort to change or grow. What makes this even more dangerous is that people who lack accountability rarely change. Since they never see themselves as the problem, they have no reason to improve. Instead, they find new ways to deflect responsibility. If they get caught in a lie, they claim they were just trying to avoid drama. If they hurt you, they insist it wasn't intentional. If they disappoint you, they blame circumstances instead of admitting they could have handled things better. This refusal to own up to mistakes means the same patterns keep repeating because, in their mind, they've done nothing wrong. Over time, being with someone who refuses to take accountability can damage your self-esteem. You may start feeling like nothing you say matters because every conversation about their behavior ends in defensiveness, gaslighting, or avoidance. You may feel unheard, invalidated, and emotionally exhausted. Instead of feeling like a team, you feel like you're in a constant battle just to get them to acknowledge your feelings and concerns. A healthy relationship requires two people who can take responsibility for their actions and make changes when necessary. If one person refuses to do that, the relationship becomes one-sided and unsustainable. It's important to recognize that accountability isn't just about admitting when you're wrong, it's about actively working to improve. A man who values accountability doesn't just say, "I'm sorry," he proves it by changing his behavior. He listens, learns, and makes sure not to repeat the same mistakes. But when someone consistently refuses to take responsibility, they are showing you exactly who they are. They are telling you that they are unwilling to grow, that they are unwilling to meet you halfway, and that they would rather shift blame than fix the problem. The sooner you recognize this red flag, the better. Waiting for someone to change when they refuse to take accountability will only lead to more disappointment. You deserve a relationship where issues can be addressed openly and fairly without fear of blame, manipulation, or defensiveness. A man who truly respects you will take responsibility for his actions, not just when it's convenient for him, but because he genuinely cares about how his behavior affects you. When accountability is missing, so is the foundation of trust and respect, and without those, a healthy relationship simply isn't possible. Disrespect towards others is one of the most telling signs of a person's true character. It's easy for someone to be charming and kind when they're trying to impress you, but the way they treat others, especially those they don't have to be nice to, reveals who they really are. At first, it might not seem like a big deal. Maybe he talks down to a waiter, rolls his eyes at a customer service worker, or makes an insensitive joke at someone else's expense. It's subtle, and he might even try to pass it off as just his sense of humor or not a big deal. But make no mistake, disrespect is never just a one-time thing. It's a pattern, and eventually, it will extend to you. A man who consistently belittles, mocks, or dismisses others is showing you how he views people. If he's rude to strangers but sweet to you, don't assume you're the exception, you're just the current priority. Over time, as comfort sets in, that same lack of respect will start to show in the way he treats you. Maybe it starts small, interrupting you when you speak, dismissing your concerns, or making jokes at your expense in front of others. It's easy to brush these things off at first, but as they accumulate, they create a toxic environment where you feel unheard and undervalued. Disrespect often manifests in the way he talks about people, too. Pay attention to how he speaks about his exes, his friends, and even his family. Does he constantly criticize and blame others for everything that's gone wrong in his life? Does he talk about past relationships with nothing but resentment, painting himself as the victim in every story? If so, that's a sign that he lacks self-awareness and emotional maturity. The way he speaks about other people is often a preview of how he'll eventually speak about you. If he has no respect for the people who were once close to him, what makes you think he'll respect you when things get difficult? Another major red flag is how he handles disagreements. A respectful person can have a difference of opinion without resorting to insults, sarcasm, or condescension. But someone who lacks respect will often resort to dismissive, degrading behavior the moment they feel challenged. They might raise their voice, mock you, or make you feel like your thoughts and feelings are invalid. This kind of behavior is meant to break down your confidence and make you second-guess yourself. Instead of resolving conflicts in a healthy way, they use disrespect as a way to control the situation and silence you. One of the most dangerous aspects of disrespect is that it often escalates over time. What starts as small, offhand comments can eventually turn into blatant disregard for your boundaries, feelings, and dignity. If he constantly interrupts you, ignores your concerns, or refuses to acknowledge your perspective, those are all forms of disrespect. If he talks over you, corrects you in front of others, or makes decisions without considering your input, that's a clear sign that he does not see you as an equal partner. And if he ever resorts to name-calling, belittling, or making you feel small, that is emotional abuse, plain and simple. Many people make the mistake of believing that love and respect are separate things. They think that as long as someone claims to love them, they can overlook the occasional disrespect. But the truth is, love without respect is not love at all. You cannot build a healthy, fulfilling relationship with someone who does not respect you as a person. Affection, grand gestures, and sweet words mean nothing if they are paired with behavior that makes you feel unimportant, unheard, or devalued. It's also important to recognize that respect is not just about how he treats you, it's about how he treats everyone. A man who genuinely respects people does so consistently, not just when he's trying to impress or win someone over. If he only shows kindness when he's getting something in return but treats others poorly, when there's nothing to gain, that's a huge warning sign. True character is revealed in how someone behaves when they have no incentive to be kind. A relationship should be a safe space where you feel valued, understood, and appreciated. If a man cannot show basic respect to others, he will not show it to you in the long run. Do not make excuses for someone's disrespectful behavior, no matter how small it seems at first. It is always a sign of deeper issues, ones that will eventually affect you directly. You deserve to be with someone who listens to you, values your opinions, and treats you and everyone around them with genuine kindness and respect. Anything less is unacceptable. Overly controlling behavior is one of the most toxic red flags in a relationship, yet it often doesn't appear obvious at first. In the beginning, it can masquerade as concern, attentiveness, or even love. He might say he just wants what's best for you, that he's looking out for you, or that he worries because he cares so much. But over time, that concern turns into restrictions, constant questioning, and a need to dictate what you do, who you spend time with, and even how you think. What starts as subtle suggestions can quickly escalate into an attempt to control every aspect of your life. One of the first signs of controlling behavior is excessive jealousy. At first, it might seem flattering. He gets a little possessive when another guy talks to you, or he wants to spend all his time with you. But soon his jealousy turns into suspicion. He starts questioning your whereabouts, asking who you were with, and monitoring your actions under the pretense of just being protective. He might say things like, "I don't trust other guys around you," or "I just want to make sure no one takes advantage of you." But what he's really saying is that he doesn't trust you. He's placing restrictions on your life based on his own insecurities, and instead of addressing them, he's making them your problem. Control also shows up in the way he reacts to your independence. A controlling man will struggle with the idea of you making decisions on your own, especially when those decisions don't involve him. Maybe he starts commenting on what you wear, telling you that certain outfits are too much, or sending the wrong message. Maybe he pressures you to change your schedule so that you're always available for him. If you want to go out with friends, he makes you feel guilty, saying things like, "Why would you want to be with them when you could be with me?" At first, these statements might seem like they come from a place of love, but in reality, they are meant to isolate you. The more he controls your time and decisions, the less independence you have and the more reliant you become on him. Another common tactic controlling people use is emotional manipulation. If you ever challenge his behavior, he turns the situation around and makes you feel like the bad guy. He might say you don't appreciate everything he does for you or that you don't care about his feelings. He might even give you the silent treatment or withdraw affection when you don't comply with his expectations. This kind of behavior is meant to train you to submit, making you feel guilty for asserting your own needs and boundaries. Over time, you start adjusting your actions just to avoid upsetting him, and before you know it, you're walking on eggshells in your own relationship. Financial control is another way that overly controlling men exert power. If he tries to dictate how you spend your money, pressures you to quit your job, or insists on handling all financial decisions, that's a serious red flag. A healthy relationship allows both partners to have financial independence and autonomy. But when a man tries to control your access to money, he's not protecting you, he's trapping you. The less financial freedom you have, the harder it is to leave, and that's exactly what he wants. Verbal and emotional control can also come in the form of constant criticism. If he frequently puts you down, makes you feel like your opinions don't matter, or dismisses your feelings as overreactions, he is trying to break your confidence. A controlling man doesn't want you to feel strong, capable, or independent. He wants you to doubt yourself so that you rely on him for validation. Even joking insults, when done repeatedly, chip away at your self-esteem. You start to believe that maybe you are overreacting, that maybe you should listen to him more. But the truth is, love is not about control, and a healthy relationship never requires you to shrink yourself to make someone else feel secure. One of the scariest things about control is that it often escalates. What starts as emotional manipulation can lead to more serious forms of control, including threats, intimidation, and even physical aggression. Many people who find themselves in deeply controlling relationships don't realize how bad it has become until they feel completely trapped. This is why it's so important to recognize the warning signs early. If a man consistently makes you feel like you have to ask permission instead of making your own choices, if he reacts with anger when you assert yourself, or if he isolates you from friends and family, these are not signs of love, they are signs of control. A healthy relationship is built on trust, respect, and mutual support. A man who truly loves you will never feel the need to control you. Instead, he will respect your independence, celebrate your choices, and trust you enough to let you live your life without constant surveillance or restrictions. You deserve to be with someone who empowers you, not someone who diminishes you. Control is not love, and the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you can walk away from a situation that is only going to get worse. Lack of emotional availability is one of the most frustrating and painful red flags in a relationship because, at first, it can be hard to recognize. A man who is emotionally unavailable isn't necessarily cold or unkind. He may still show affection, spend time with you, and even say all the right things. But when it comes to truly opening up, being vulnerable, and forming a deep emotional connection, there is always a wall. No matter how much effort you put in, it feels like you can't fully reach him. Over time, this emotional distance creates frustration, loneliness, and a feeling that you are constantly chasing something that never fully materializes. One of the biggest signs of emotional unavailability is avoidance. When real conversations need to happen about feelings, the future, or any kind of emotional depth, he finds a way to deflect or shut down. Maybe he changes the subject, makes a joke, or suddenly gets too tired to talk. He might say things like, "I don't like talking about feelings," or "I'm just not good at this emotional stuff." At first, you might brush it off, thinking he just needs time to open up. But as time goes on, you realize that no matter how patient you are, the deeper connection you crave never happens. Emotional unavailability can also show up in the form of inconsistency. Some days he might be affectionate, sweet, and present. Other days he pulls away, becomes distant, or acts indifferent. This hot and cold behavior creates an emotional roller coaster where you never quite know where you stand. When he's attentive, you feel hopeful. When he withdraws, you start questioning yourself, wondering if you did something wrong. This cycle can be incredibly addictive because you keep holding on to the moments where he does show up, hoping that one day he will finally be consistent. But deep down, you know something is missing. Another major sign of emotional unavailability is a refusal to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is what creates deep emotional bonds. It's the ability to open up, express fears, admit weaknesses, and let someone truly see you. But when a man is emotionally unavailable, he avoids this at all costs. He keeps conversations surface level, avoids discussing his past in depth, and struggles to express his feelings in a meaningful way. Even when something is clearly bothering him, he may brush it off, saying, "I'm fine," or "It's not a big deal." This reluctance to be open prevents the relationship from growing, because real connection requires honesty and depth. Lack of emotional availability also manifests in his inability to support your emotions. In a healthy relationship, both partners provide emotional support for each other. But if he dismisses your feelings, tells you you're overreacting, or shuts down when you need comfort, it leaves you feeling alone even when you're with him. Instead of offering reassurance, he might say things like, "I don't know what you want me to do," or "You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be." Over time, you start suppressing your emotions because you don't want to feel like a burden. You tell yourself not to bring up certain things because you already know his response will be distant or dismissive. This kind of emotional neglect chips away at your sense of security in the relationship. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of being with an emotionally unavailable man is the false hope that if you just love him enough, he will change. You convince yourself that if you're patient, understanding, and give him enough time, he will eventually open up. But the hard truth is that emotional availability is a choice. It is not something you can force out of someone. No matter how much you love him, he has to be willing to do the emotional work himself. If he's not, you will always feel like you are pouring your heart into something that gives very little back. Many emotionally unavailable men keep relationships going just enough to prevent you from leaving. They might not give you real depth, but they give just enough attention and affection to keep you hoping. They don't fully commit, but they also don't fully let go. This limbo is emotionally exhausting because it keeps you invested in something that will never fully satisfy your emotional needs. Recognizing emotional unavailability for what it is can be painful, especially when you deeply care about someone. But the reality is you cannot build a healthy, fulfilling relationship with someone who keeps a wall between you. Love should feel safe, open, and reciprocal, not like an endless chase for emotional scraps. You deserve someone who meets you on the same emotional level, someone who is willing to be vulnerable, and someone who values emotional intimacy as much as you do. If a man consistently shows you that he cannot or will not do that, believe him. Walking away from an emotionally unavailable relationship isn't about giving up. It's about choosing your own emotional well-being over a situation that is never going to fulfill you. Constant dishonesty is one of the most damaging traits a person can bring into a relationship. It destroys trust, creates confusion, and slowly erodes any sense of security you might feel with them. A relationship without honesty is a relationship built on shaky ground where you can never be sure what's real and what's not. The problem with dishonesty is that it doesn't always come in the form of big, obvious lies. Sometimes it starts small, little white lies, small omissions, or half-truths. But over time, these small deceptions add up, and before you know it, you're in a relationship with someone whose words you can't rely on. One of the first signs of dishonesty is inconsistency. A dishonest person often struggles to keep their stories straight. Maybe they tell you one thing one day and something slightly different another day. When you ask for clarification, they act like you're imagining things or being too critical. They might say things like, "I never said that," or "You're overthinking it." This subtle gaslighting makes you question your own memory and judgment. Instead of admitting the truth, they make you feel like the problem. This kind of behavior is a major red flag because it shows they are more concerned with avoiding accountability than being honest. Another sign of dishonesty is defensiveness. A person who lies regularly does not like being questioned. If you bring up something that doesn't add up, instead of calmly explaining, they get angry, dismissive, or even try to turn the conversation against you. They might say things like, "Why don't you trust me?" or "You're always looking for problems." This is a tactic to shut down the conversation and make you feel guilty for even asking. A truly honest person has no issue clarifying things or answering your questions because they have nothing to hide. But a dishonest person will always try to make you feel like the bad guy for wanting the truth. Lying is also often accompanied by secrecy. If a man is constantly hiding things from you, his phone, his whereabouts, details about his life, it's a major red flag. Trustworthy people don't need to be secretive because they have nothing to cover up. But when someone is constantly guarded, avoiding certain topics or being vague about their plans, it usually means they are keeping something from you. Maybe they suddenly become protective of their phone, start deleting messages, or seem to always be busy without giving you a clear explanation. This kind of behavior creates uncertainty, making you feel like you're always guessing what's really going on. Dishonesty isn't just about lying, it's also about manipulation. A dishonest man doesn't just tell lies, he carefully controls what information you do and don't get. He might tell half-truths, giving you just enough information to seem transparent while leaving out key details that would change the full picture. He might twist the truth in a way that makes him look innocent and others look guilty. This kind of selective honesty is just as damaging as outright lying because it still distorts reality and prevents you from making informed decisions about the relationship. One of the most painful aspects of being with a dishonest person is the constant feeling of uncertainty. When someone lies to you regularly, you start to lose trust in your own instincts. You begin second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or being paranoid. But deep down, you know something isn't right. Your gut tells you when something feels off, but a dishonest person will make you doubt yourself so much that you ignore those instincts. The longer you stay in this cycle, the harder it becomes to break free because you become emotionally attached to the potential of the relationship rather than the reality of it. People who lie consistently don't change overnight. Many dishonest men don't see their behavior as a problem because it benefits them. Lying allows them to avoid conflict, escape responsibility, and maintain control. Even when they are caught, they often just become better at covering their tracks rather than actually changing. They might apologize, make excuses, or promise to do better, but if the dishonesty continues, those words mean nothing. Trust is not something that can be restored with an apology. It requires consistent honesty over time. A healthy relationship cannot survive without trust. If you're constantly wondering whether your partner is telling the truth, that is not love. That is emotional exhaustion. You should never have to play detective in your own relationship. The right person will not make you question their honesty. They will be transparent, consistent, and open. Being with someone who constantly lies, hides things, or manipulates the truth is a never-ending battle that will only drain you. Walking away from a dishonest relationship is not about being unforgiving. It's about protecting your peace. No matter how much you care about someone, you cannot build something real with a person who refuses to be truthful. You deserve honesty. You deserve clarity. You deserve someone whose words you can believe without hesitation. Anything less is not love. It's deception. At the end of the day, a relationship should never feel like a constant battle for respect, trust, or emotional security. The red flags we've talked about, whether it's controlling behavior, emotional unavailability, dishonesty, or any other toxic pattern, are not things that can be ignored, excused, or justified in the name of love. Love should never require you to shrink yourself, second-guess your worth, or accept less than you deserve. The hardest part about recognizing these red flags is that they often come wrapped in excuses, both from the person displaying them and from ourselves. Or maybe he'll change, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I just need to be more patient. But deep down, you already know when something isn't right. Your gut tells you. The tension in your body tells you. The exhaustion you feel from constantly trying to make it work tells you. The question is, will you listen? Walking away from a toxic relationship is not weakness, it's strength. It's choosing yourself. It's refusing to settle for a love that drains you instead of uplifts you. And most importantly, it's making space for something better. Because the right person will never make you question your worth. The right person will not manipulate you, control you, or play games with your heart. They will show up, they will respect you, and they will love you in a way that feels safe, consistent, and real. So if you see these red flags in someone you're with, don't ignore them. Don't convince yourself that things will magically get better. Pay attention. Have the courage to walk away. And remember, the most powerful